Good morning, students and friends. We were discussing chapter number 3, human reproduction, and we have discussed many topics in this human reproduction. Today, we have to learn fertilization and implantation, how the fertilization process takes place and how the implantation process takes place. Okay, for understanding the fertilization and implantation, you should have a basic knowledge of female reproductive system. So I have just drawn a diagram of a female reproductive system. Okay, we have already learned the female reproductive system and its part, but I am just revising so that you can come to know, or you can better understand the fertilization process. You know that the female reproductive system, the main primary part of female reproductive system, it consists of two ovaries. Okay, these ovaries, they are present on the lower part of abdomen. Okay, it's present in a lower part of abdomen. Okay, and that is attached to the wall of a uterus. Next, that is present nearer to a funnel shaped structure of oviduct. These are the oviduct. The funnel shaped structure of oviduct, this is called as infundibulum. That contains a finger-like projections. This finger-like projection is called as fimbri. Okay, there are two portions. The wider portion of this oviduct or fallopian tube, it's called as ampulla, and the narrower portion is called as isthmus. Okay, next, this isthmus that's connected with a uterus. This is cervix, and that opens through vagina. So these are the different parts of a female reproductive system. Now we have to understand how the process of fertilization takes place. How fertilization process takes place, that what we have to understand. So see here how the fertilization process takes place. See here, during the copulation process, okay, or you can also call it as coitus, or you can also call it as intercourse. These are the synonyms, or in simple term you can say that a sexual activity. Okay, during this process, either copulation, you can also call it as coitus or intercourse, or in simple terms sexual activity, the sperms are released into a vagina. This is a vagina where the sperms are going to released. A millions of sperm, you know that in one ejaculation, the 200 to 300 million sperms are released. But here we have a limited space available, so I am just showing it with an example of just one or two. Okay, so but many millions of sperms are going to be released into a vagina. That is a female reproductive part. The process of release or deposition of that sperm into a vagina or the female genital tract, this process is called as insemination. What it is called as insemination. Okay, so what is insemination? Insemination, that is a release or the discharge of a sperm or semen into a vagina or a female genital tract. This is called as an insemination process. Now what happens? Once these sperm are going to be released, these sperms are motile in nature, means they are capable of movement and they move towards cervix. So they enter into a cervix. They go ahead. From that, it goes or enters into a uterus. Okay, they are motile, so they can swim. They swim in the genital tract of a female. Okay, and then finally they reaches sperm. They reaches. There are lots of sperm. They reaches in the ampullary region. This is the ampullary region. Okay, where they reaches. Okay, by swimming, they reach to a ampullary region of oviduct or ovarian funnel. Okay, this is the wider portion of this ampulla. Okay, this happens. This is the activity which happens during the intercourse. To reach over here, once it is released into a vagina, to reach over an ampullary region, it may take a different time interval depends on the motility of a sperm, and the time may ranges from 3 to 6 hours to reach to an ampullary region. Okay, how much time it takes to reach over ampullary region? 3 to 6 hours it will take to reach to an ampullary region. Okay, during the meantime, what happens? The ovary, it releases the ovum, or you can say secondary oocyte. This is going to be released, a secondary oocyte. Okay, this secondary oocyte is also moves towards the ampullary region. This is towards the ampullary region. It starts a movement. Okay, now both reaches into an ampullary region where the sperm fuses with this ovum. Some sperm fuses with an ovum. This is the secondary oocyte which is gets released. Secondary oocyte. Okay, it's going to be released, or you can say a female gamete or ovum that gets released. But more specifically, I will call it as secondary oocyte. They gets released, and it also moves towards the ampullary region because this oviduct also possesses the cilia, hair-like structures through which the ovum can move. Okay, because the ovum as such doesn't have motility. Sperm has a motility because it's a male gamete. You know that male gamete are motile in nature, so it can move, but the ovum cannot move as such. For movement of ovum, the cilia which is present in the oviduct or fallopian tube, it helps in its movement, and ultimately both reaches into a ampullary region of oviduct. This is the ampullary region of oviduct. Now where the fusion of them takes place, and the fusion of that sperm with a secondary oocyte or ovum, this process is called as fertilization. This process is called as fertilization, and thus the fertilization takes place. To fertilization occur in this region or female reproductive system, both the gamete, that is the sperm, and the ovum, they should be brought together. Okay, and if they are brought together, then and then the fertilization or fusion takes place. Okay, every time when insemination or copulation occurs, that doesn't leads to a fertilization. Every copulation doesn't leads to a fertilization, and so hence every time the pregnancy does not occur, because the reason for a fertilization to occur, the fusion is necessary. But you know that there is release of ovum or secondary oocyte only once in a month, and that is around a 14th day of menstrual cycle. So when this secondary oocyte gets released, at that time the chances of fertilization is very high. So that's why on the 14th day of menstruation, where ovulation takes place, at that time the chances of fertilization is very high. Okay, so remember, every copulation or coitus does not result into a fertilization and pregnancy. Okay, the fertilization only happens when the sperm meets with the ovum, and you know that ovum release, that's an ovulation process that occurs on the 14th day of menstrual cycle. Okay, so this process is called as fertilization. This process is called as fertilization. Clear, students? Okay, so this is called as fertilization. I again repeat how the process is going to occur. Okay, during the copulation or coitus, the sperm are discharged into a vagina. This sperm has a motility, so it can easily swim. It swims through a cervix, uterus, and then it reaches to a ampullary region, the wider portion of a fallopian tube. Okay, now the secondary oocyte or the ovum, that is also released from ovary on the 14th day of menstrual cycle, that also travel towards the ampullary region of oviduct. Okay, the release of secondary oocyte that occurs on the 14th day, where in the ampullary region both fuse together, or the sperm they fuse with ovum or secondary oocyte, that leads to a formation of a zygote. Okay, that leads to a formation of a zygote. This process is called as fertilization. Every copulation doesn't result into a fertilization and hence pregnancy. For a fertilization to occur, the meeting of ovum and sperm is necessary. So the highest chances of fertilization occurs during or nearer to a 14th day of menstrual cycle. Okay. Now what happens? Once the fertilization process takes place, there is a formation of a zygote. Okay. Zygote. Now this zygote or the nucleus of that sperm and the nucleus of a secondary oocyte, they fuse together. And so that's why you know that the nucleus of a zygote that contains 2n number of chromosomes. How it becomes a 2n? Because secondary oocyte, or you can say ovum, right, more specifically secondary oocyte that contains n number of chromosome. The sperm, it contains n number of chromosome. Both fuse together in a process called as fertilization. So the resultant zygote which is going to produce, that has a 2n number of chromosome. So in short, if you talk about the human being, the secondary oocyte contains n number of chromosome, means 23 number of chromosome. Sperm contains another n number of chromosome, means 23 number of chromosome, and both fuse together form 2n, means 2 into 23, means 46 number of chromosomes are present. That means zygote contains 46 number of chromosome, and secondary oocyte and the sperm, that each contains 23 number of chromosome. Okay, so that is about a formation of a zygote by a process called as a fertilization. But now this is a secondary oocyte. What happens to it? This secondary oocyte, when the sperm enters into secondary oocyte and leads to a formation of zygote, it finishes its second meiotic division. Second meiotic division gets finished, and as a result of second meiotic division, it forms ovum, or you can say a proper egg cell, and you can also call it as the second that is going to be produced, a small cell which is going to be produced, that is called as second polar body. What it is formed? Second polar body. Okay. First meiotic division has been completed and it leads to a formation of secondary oocyte. We have learned it during the oogenesis process. Okay, recall the oogenesis process, and in oogenesis process recall the maturation phase. In a maturation phase, the meiotic division takes place in a primary oocyte, and first meiotic division finishes, and then two possibilities. At the end of first meiotic division, secondary oocyte is produced. Now after completion of first meiotic division, there are two possibilities. Either fertilization takes place or fertilization does not take place. Recall, if fertilization does not take place, means fusion does not take place, whatever the content are there, they are liberated or discharged along with a menstrual fluid. But if a fertilization process takes place, then there is a fusion takes place and the second meiotic division completes. Okay, here without fertilization, second meiotic division process does not occur. Okay, but if fertilization takes place, the second meiotic division finishes and it produces the two cells, one ovum and the second one is second polar body. Okay, and thus a zygote is going to be formed. Okay, because with this ovum, this secondary oocyte or sperm, it gets fused. Okay, and thus ultimately a zygote is going to be formed. This process is called as fertilization. This process is called as fertilization. Clear, students? Now, at that time, during the fertilization, during the meeting of sperm with a ovum, the sex of a fetus or a sex of a baby is already determined. Depends which type of chromosome have fused with it, or which kind of a sperm has fused with it. You know that a female has X chromosome. So every gamete which is produced, they have only one type of a chromosome, that is called as X. So whatever the secondary oocyte or the ovum that has only X type of chromosome as a 23rd number of chromosome. In a male, the chromosome is XY. So half of the sperm, this is a sperm, they carries a X chromosome. Another half they carries a Y chromosome. So it happens that few sperm that contains X chromosome and few contains a Y chromosome. Okay, which sperm that fuses with it, suppose if it is a X chromosome containing sperm fuses with a ovum, because the ovum always contains X, then it leads to a formation of X and X by fusion, X and X. Okay, and ultimately a female baby is produced or girl baby is produced. But if this is a sperm which contains a Y chromosome, then X and Y, that XY containing baby is produced, that means a male is produced. Okay, so depends which sperm fertilizes the ovum, whether X chromosome containing sperm or Y chromosome containing sperm fertilizes the ovum, depends on that the sex of a baby or a fetus has been determined, and it has already been determined during a fertilization process, means a fusion process, or you can also call it as during a syngamy. Okay, that is determined. If X containing sperm, then it is a female is produced. If Y containing, then it is a male is produced, because always the ovum contains a X chromosome. This denotes that the sex of a fetus is determined by a male, not a female. But in our society, for a female girl or for delivery of a female girl, a lady has been blamed, but actually it has been determined by a male. Okay, which sperm, whether it's an X containing sperm or Y containing sperm, they mix with a ovum. Okay, 50-50% of the sperm are there. Okay, 50% sperm are X containing and 50% sperm are Y chromosome containing. Okay, so there is 50% chances that a male is produced and 50% chances are that female is produced. Okay, so ultimate point is that while during a fertilization or fusion, the sex of a fetus has been determined, and it depends on the sperm that contain either X chromosome or Y chromosome that determine the sex of a baby. So this is all about a process called as fertilization. What it is called as fertilization. Clear, students? Where fusion takes place. In which region the fusion takes place? Ampullary region the fusion takes place. Now what happens after a fertilization? So after fertilization, the next process takes place is called as implantation. What it is called as? Implantation. So how the implantation takes place? I am just deleting whatever the part that is not needed and keeping the part which is needed. Okay. Now the next process after fertilization, the process takes place is called as implantation. What is the implantation process? You know that where the fertilization process takes place? The fertilization process takes place in a ampullary region where 2M zygote is formed. This zygote is formed or as a result of fertilization between a sperm and ovum. That is formed into an ampullary region. Now this zygote that will travel through a isthmus and it enters into an uterus. It enters into a uterus, or they enter into a uterine cavity. They enter into a uterine cavity. While it is transferring from ampullary to an isthmus, these cells are dividing. It is dividing. Okay, they all are 2n containing. How it divides? Initially it's just a one cell, 2n, what we call it as zygote, and then it forms or divide by mitosis, and it forms two cells, 1 and 2. Again divides and it forms 4 cells. Then again divides and it forms 8 cells. These are the 8 cells. This is a schematic diagram for easy understanding. It is mitosis division. So divide by mitosis. So one zygote that converts to a 2 cell, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to a 16 cells. Okay, so these are the 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells. Okay, this process occurs where? This process occurs when the zygote is traveling and reaches to a uterus. That zygote continuously dividing by a mitosis process, and it forms 2, 4, 8 and 16 cell. The group of a cells which contains 8 to 16 cell. Remember, a group of a cell which contains 8 to 16 cell. This is called as morula. What it is called as morula. This is very important regarding to examination point of view. A group of cells which contains 8 to 16 cells. This is called as morula. I specified these cells which are going to be formed. These cells are called as blastomere. What are the name of these cells? They are called as blastomeres. Okay. So while transferring from ampulla to a uterus, the zygote divides and it converts to a blastomere. That converts into a blastomere. And group of 8 to 16 blastomere. Group of 8 to 16 blastomere. What we call it as morula. What we call it as morula. Clear? Now this morula again continue to divide, and that converts into a blastocyst. That converts into a blastocyst. Clear? This blastocyst, suppose I draw, this is a blastocyst that contain a cells. Okay, that contains a cells. Okay, so this blastocyst that contains a cell, what we call it as blastomere, a group of cells. What we call it, this is the name of cell. What we call it as blastomere, and that is surrounded to a blastocyst. The morula now converts to a blastocyst. Okay, in a blastocyst, the cells of blastomere, they are organized into 2 layers. How many layers? 2 layers. Outer region, okay, this is called as trophoblast, and the inner cells, inner one, that is called as inner cell mass. It's called as inner cell mass. Clear? Okay, continue. I again repeat. After fertilization, what happens in a ampullary region? There is a formation of a zygote. Zygote continue to divide by a mitosis process while it is transferring through this fallopian tube. Okay, so the one cell becomes a 2 cell, 2 cell becomes a 4 cells, 4 cell becomes a 8 cells, 8 cell becomes a 16 cells. These cells which are going to be formed, they are called as, what is the name of these cells? They are called as blastomere. Such ultimately 8 to 16 cells are produced. To produce the 16 cells from a 1 cell zygote, it will take approximately 1 week. It will take a 1 week to produce 16 cells blastomere from a single zygote. Now 8 to 16 cell blastomeres are called as, what is the name of this 8 to 16 cell blastomere? That's called as morula. This morula also continue to dividing, and that converts to a blastocyst. So blastocyst contains a lots of cells, what we call it as blastomere. The cells of blastomeres now organized or arranged into 2. The outer layer of it is called as trophoblast, and the inner one is called as inner mass. Inner one is called as inner mass. The cells of this trophoblast, where it is formed, the cells of this trophoblast that attaches to a wall of uterus. So cells of trophoblast, that is the outer layer, okay, that attaches with a uteri or uterus lining. That attaches with a uterus lining. And the inner one, the inner cell mass, from that the embryo will develop. What is develop? Embryo will develop. So here the trophoblast that attaches with a lining of a uterus, and that process, attachment of this blastocyst to a lining of a uterus, that process already we have learned. That process is called as implantation. That's called as implantation, and thus the implantation takes place. Implantation, that means attachment of a blastocyst to the wall of a uterus, that is called as an implantation. And how the implantation process takes place? In an implantation process, the outer cells which are arranged, they are called as trophoblast, that attaches to a wall of uterus, and thus the implantation process takes place. And the inner cells which are present, the cells which are present inner to a trophoblast, they develops into an embryo, and thus the implantation process takes place. So we have finished two processes. First is fertilization, and the second one is called as an implantation. Okay. Now what is happening? Once the fertilization takes place, means the fusion takes place, it will travel, it divides while traveling, it attaches to a wall of a uterus. Okay, that is process called as implantation. Now its development starts. It makes a contact. How it makes a contact? The contact occurs. So how it makes? The wall of uterus, the lining of uterus, it develops a finger-like projection. Which projection? Finger-like projection. This is called as chorionic villi. What is called as chorionic villi? A finger-like projection which are developed by it. Okay, by the lining of a uterus. Okay, that is called as chorionic villi. Now the cells of this trophoblast, it interdigitate like this, interdigitate. Okay, see here, this is a trophoblast and this is a lining of a uterus. They interdigitate with it. Okay, once it interdigitate, it makes attachment strong, and this which is going to be formed, this is called as placenta. What it is formed? It leads to a formation of placenta. Okay. This placenta, it will supply oxygen and nutrient to a developing embryo. Okay, it will supply oxygen and nutrient to a developing embryo. Along with that, it will remove a carbon dioxide and the waste from a developing embryo. Okay, and thus there is a close contact between the fetus developing embryo and a maternal body or mother's body. Okay, and that is established through a placenta. But that contact doesn't establish as such. The placenta is connected to a umbilical cord, and this umbilical cord that makes a contact between maternal body, mother's body, and a fetus or developing embryo. Okay, so this placenta is connected to an umbilical cord that is just acting as a medium or a bridge for transport of oxygen and nutrient from mother body to a fetus, and transport of waste and carbon dioxide from fetus to a mother's body. Okay, and thus the fetus gets a nutrition and develop it. Okay, and thus the placenta formation takes place, and the formation of this placenta is called as placentation. What it is called as? Placentation. Clear? So thus the formation of placenta takes place. The placenta, once it is formed, they releases the certain hormones. Remember the name of this hormone. We will discuss. I just give you a name here: HCG, HPL, estrogens, progestogens. These are the hormones. They are released by it, placenta, and they are responsible for a certain growth. HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. HPL, human placental lactogens, and you already know about the estrogen and the progesterone. Even one more hormone is also released, that is called as relaxin, that is also released from placenta, but that is released only during the pregnancy. These are the three hormones I just underlined. These are the three hormones, HCG, HPL and the relaxin. These are the three hormones which are only released during the pregnancy. Okay, what are their role, what are their functions, that we will discuss in the next session. Okay, but that process is called as the process of formation of a placenta is called as placentation. What it is called? Placentation. So clear students, we have discussed three processes today. Fertilization means a fusion. Next, implantation means attachment of that blastocyst or trophoblast to the wall of a uterus. That what we call as implantation. And next, placentation means a formation of placenta, how the placenta will develops. The detail regarding this placentation and further embryonic development we will do in a next session. Okay, till that keep learning. Okay, in the previous sessions we have discussed many important topics like male reproductive system, female reproductive system, spermatogenesis, oogenesis, menstrual cycle, what we have discussed in the previous session. So they are very important examination point of view. They are asked in a 4 marks. So prepare it thoroughly. Okay. So keep learning, keep watching. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe this channel. Thank you once again.